Hello and welcome back to Continental Club. The lads are here. We're back in the East Dulwich Tavern in South London. Come check it out if you're in the area. The Champions League was back this week as well. Henry, did you enjoy?
I did. How many did we get right? I'm trying to think. I think we almost got them all right, other than AC
Chelsea
Milan.
Dortmund was the big no-no.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't get that one right.
And we didn't get Tottenham, AC Milan right.
Yes.
That's the other one. But the most
Back to the wrong London club, didn't we? Yeah.
The most important thing is Napoli are through, and they are on their way to a famous year. I'm really excited for the draw. I think it could throw up some absolute banging ties.
Yes. By the time this video is out, you guys will know it takes place in Nyon, Switzerland. They're always in with Pedro Pinto. I think tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Mad.
Cannot wait to watch that because they also do the semi-finals at the same time, which is quite exciting. McCubs, if you were
Europa
Napoli,
as well.
who would you be most worried about?
Benfica? No,
boys.
I think. I know. Like they're not. They're definitely not the weakest team in the draw, but I think Benfica would be good for them. Maybe something. I think in some ways, even though again they're not the best team in the draw, Real Madrid. There's something about if Napoli had to go to the Bernabeu for the second leg, I would worry for them a little bit, just because it's Real Madrid in the Champions League, and they've just been, and that's who I'd be most worried about. I think.
Yeah,
I think they could beat. I think they are capable of beating Man City. I think they're capable of beating everyone, but I just think Man City are just less scary in the Champions League, whereas Real Madrid, it's just especially when you're a perennial underdog like Napoli. I know they're running away with the Serie A title, but when you are a club like that, the psychological thing of playing Real Madrid is just always huge.
Yeah, felt like they had so many more gears to go to against Liverpool last night as well. But today we are going to talk about clubs that are having difficult seasons that need massive rebuilds this summer. And actually, you laugh, but actually rebuilds can be pretty successful. I mean, look at Napoli's last summer. That actually turned out to be a massively successful one. So maybe some of the suggestions we come out with today would also revamp these guys' futures. Henry, we're going to kick off with Inter Milan at the suggestion of @he_football. Inter Milan, not a great season in the league, through to the quarterfinals, but there's financial issues to say the least.
It's a weird one because they are second in the in Serie A at the moment. They're also still in the Coppa Italia, and they're also in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And yet people are thinking, hold on a minute, this isn't a vintage Inter Milan season, certainly since they've become a force of European football once more.
I think that gap between Napoli is just that. I think that's the disappointing thing, isn't it? You'd expect them to at least be closer to the leaders at this point in the season.
I agree, and I think part of the problem is they've got the third worst away record in the division, which actually, when you consider they are second overall, that's really shocking, and they keep screwing up against teams lower down them in the table. And actually, I think Pepe Morata, is that the CEO? He's basically implied that the World Cup has really thrown off a lot of their squad this year. He said Brozovic isn't the same Brozovic as he's been. Obviously, the Lukaku gamble hasn't paid off at all. What was it, 20 million euros for the loan this season? I think he's got 1 goal from open play, 5 goals overall. He's not really there, and they've got problems.
He's going to go back as well, isn't he? They've said he's going to go at Chelsea, and
I think that's good. Actually, I should be interested to see what Potter can do with him because there's still a player in there, isn't there? But anyway, let's look at Inter in kind of like a wider issue. They've only got the 6th best defence in Serie A, only conceded 1 fewer than Lecce. Obviously, their attack's going forward, and I think part of the problem with their defence comes from the fact that Skriniar is leaving this summer on a free. Stefan de Vrij, his contract expires this summer as well. You've got 2 of their stalwarts in defence whose heads might not really be in the project. And we saw Matteo Darmian filling in at right centre half against Porto this week, and Cherby also at centre half there. I think I can't remember if they've got him permanently on loan or if they need to make. They've got a few deals they need to try and push to make permanent. And they've got a lot of guys with contracts expiring soon. I know they're focusing on trying to get Barella an extension. They're trying to get Brozovic, I think, to stay on a bit longer. So there is a bit of hope. But the other issue is they've got the oldest team in Serie A at 31 years old, and this is a massive problem. Yeah. Exactly, out of nowhere. And that when you're looking to put together a rebuild, which is what they need, it's tricky. Add in the fact that they're financially in a bit of a tricky situation. They still need to repay a €275 million loan to Oak Tree Capital by the end of June 2024.
That has to be paid.
Yes, that has to be paid. I was reading about it, to sort of fund the gap in during COVID, they had to sort of take out this loan. It's unclear whether they're for sale at the moment, and if they're trying to get a buyer to take over the club. People are looking at these numbers in terms of how old their squad is, in terms of the contract situations, and they're going to go, well, we're going to have to put in X amount of money just to get this squad back where it needs to be, and that's going to play around with the price too. There's also lots of confusion at the moment about the stadium. There was the cathedral design which was released with AC Milan. It turns out that actually AC Milan are in a position to maybe go on their own and build their own stadium. They're looking at a different, like all Italian construction projects, there's lots of red tape and things holding up the process at the moment. It looks like AC Milan are interested in their own site, and actually Inter need AC Milan more than AC need Inter in this kind of collaboration when it comes to the new stand. I actually quite like the fact that they have a shared stadium. I think there's something quite special and epic about it. So that's something they're going to have to consider about. And then on top of that, they've got to try and get in a few fresh young legs into this side, because as you've said, they have dropped off this season. The gap between them and Napoli is too big. And I think with the rest of the teams in Serie A, Roma, okay, they lost 4-3, what was it, to Sassuolo last week. They're still getting better. Napoli look like they're going to be here to stay. AC Milan, I still think, are a good side. The competition at the top of that division is getting stronger and stronger. So Inter do need to make some urgent signings now. Let's look at who you've got written down here. I think Youri Tielemans would be a great signing if they could get him. I'm not quite sure where he would go to the Premier League at this point. Provided Inter have the financial capabilities, I think he would be a great addition. Certainly with the way we've seen Brozovic drop off this season. I mean, Barella's already that amazing kind of box-to-box guy. We've seen Çalhanoğlu playing more as a deep line playmaker this season. Mkhitaryan, he's very old in that midfield. He certainly could be replaced. So I'd like to see him through the door. Dahoud as well. Okay, he's not an elite central midfielder, but in terms of squad depth, Mahmoud Dahoud, I think he would be a really good addition in midfield. And Marcus Thuram. Lukaku's going to go. I think Dzeko, his contract expires. They're trying to extend it by another season, but he's no spring chicken at all. Is he Joaquin Correa? Is he at the top level they maybe need at this moment? I think he could be replaced. If you could get someone like Marcus Thuram on a free transfer, then definitely go for it. I mean,
that's the sort of signing that I think could really energise a club. Like he is that sort of level, I think. Yeah,
absolutely. I think Soyuncu is definitely one to avoid. He's been really poor for the last sort of 2 years. Apparently very popular in the dressing room at Leicester. But which is kind of why I think Rodgers has been careful not to kind of openly smash him too hard, but there's a reason he's only played like 2 games in the Premier League this season.
He's flirting with Atletico Madrid for about 18 months.
It's true. But they seriously need some backup, certainly at centre half. With De Vrij, he's no longer the player he once was. Missed a lot of games of injury. Skriniar out the door.
Sony's also had a little bit of a drop off compared to where he was a couple of years ago.
He's not that guy, I think, where you would say he's a shoo-in to go to Tottenham, or he's a shoo-in for a €50 million move. They should keep him at all costs, in all honesty. So they do. It's an interesting time. They may have to sell something like Dumfries to get some money through the door. They may have to start considering Lautaro Martinez's situation.
I mean, he's the big asset, isn't he? Really, Lautaro.
They do have the second best attack, so you don't want to jeopardise that too much. But they may have to make a big sale.
Lautaro, pretty much.
But as you mentioned at the head of the show, Napoli did sell their best players and used the money really wisely to get a load of young players through the door. Italian clubs seem to be really good at getting other Italian talent, not at a stupid premium. So maybe if Inter could work that, then we could be judging them in a very different light come the end of the summer window. But they've got a lot of work to do.
Absolutely. I feel like, because AC Milan got bought last year, was it, I think? Or maybe
Capital,
last year, exactly. And they felt like almost a more attractive option than Inter are now, just because of where this squad is at. And if anyone's doing their due diligence, it looks like Inter are only going to get worse, potentially, over the next 18 months, rather than get better. And they've already slipped back from their days, at least in league performance, than the Conte sort of days, title winners, that second place under him the year before as well. The good thing about Simone Inzaghi is he's a very good cup manager, and he has progressed them further in the Champions League than they've been in about 10 years. Deserves respect for that. Having said that, I thought they rode their luck massively against FC Porto.
They hit the last 5 minutes, man.
They hit the woodwork twice. Like DeMarco had to make an amazing challenge. It was bleak.
I've read reports that Conte, they've maybe inquired about whether or not he'd fancy going back there. That would be a terrible idea. Imagine trying to do a rebuild and have him sort of barking orders, demanding players which they feasibly can't afford to bring in. I think definitely stick with Inzaghi. I don't think he's done. I think he's done more than enough to justify a bit more time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, it's going to be an interesting one with Inter fans. Let us know how worried you are for the future. Maybe we're being a bit over dramatic, but I think it could get quite bleak there unless you're careful. Right, McCubs, let's move on to Atletico Madrid. Outside the box, RN sent this in. Slightly strange season because their form has picked up a little bit recently, but it's just a bit meh.
Yeah, I mean, we could say that about Atletico for the last 2 years, couldn't we? It's a long. Feels mad that they won, the title only 2 years ago. But yeah, I mean, they have picked up. They're unbeaten in their last 9 games. I think they're on track actually for more points than last season. But again, last season was really dire, wasn't it? And you only have to look at their, just look at their squad compared to Barcelona and Real. Like it's so far off them in a way that we haven't really seen for a good, I don't know, nearly 10 years probably. Yeah. I know like Barcelona and Real squads were probably better, in the mid 2010s, but you kind of forget how good Atleti's was as well. Like they literally had the best defense in Europe, like on paper and in performance. It kind of the likes of Godin were pretty underrated in many respects. Their defense has still been quite good this season. Only Barca have conceded fewer than them, and it's that's no shame given that Barca have only conceded 8 this season still, which is pretty mad. But the attack, once again, before he left for Barcelona, like before he left for Barcelona, is massively reliant on Antoine Griezmann. Joao Felix has obviously gone to Chelsea. Uncertainty about his future.
He keeps on saying he's so happy every 2 days. I keep on seeing this headline it's on repeat.
And to be fair, he has shown some real flashes of brilliance in that Chelsea team. In some ways, maybe he's what that Chelsea team needs in attack, just that kind of virtuoso who can really make things happen out of nothing. Will Chelsea actually pay what Atleti end up wanting for him? Not so sure. Cunha obviously went to Wolves in January on loan. Memphis has come in. Matt Doherty, yet to see him play really. So yeah, it's a bit of a higgledy-pickledy squad, isn't it? And on top of that, there's uncertainty over Simeone. There's a lot of chat, especially around the turn of the year, that he was going to leave this summer, and if he does, then this rebuild is completely reliant on whoever comes in. You mentioned Antonio Conte.
You like it?
It feels like a bit of a natural fit, doesn't it? If he feels like a bit of a natural successor to Simeone.
Luis Enrique, please.
More
I don't know. But then
AS say that they're going to go for Luis Enrique.
Really? Okay, fair. Well, I mean, Luis Enrique would also be a decent shout, to be fair. It feels like Luis Enrique is destined to take over another La Liga club, given like his kind of recent history in management. But yeah, so I mean, both wildly different. If you get Luis Enrique in, you're going to be willing to get wildly different players from if you were to get a more defence-minded coach. So yeah, there's just a lot going on, isn't there? Reguilón has barely played. Obviously, Doherty has barely played since he's come in. So the left back and right back positions are, up for grabs in many respects. You need that kind of essentially a long-term replacement for the Trippier after he left last year. We've got down here Purvis Estupiñán, obviously great La Liga experience. Problem is, I think Brighton can basically slap any price they want on him. I think
it'd be
quite difficult. Raphael Guerreiro at Borussia Dortmund could be someone, again, someone with tons of experience who, can really take the game by the scruff of the neck from that position, and he's had a really impressive campaign again at Dortmund, hasn't he?
Free transfer as well.
Yeah, free transfer. So I think he would be potentially a great, especially if you want to kind of rebuild this Atletico side in a different image. I think someone like Guerreiro can just offer so much, can't he? I know we've been tipping him to go to Manchester City, but to have a tactically a versatile player in the side like that would be brilliant. And I think he would complement Carrasco on that left hand side really, really well, able to come in and give draw players away from Carrasco, who obviously is so dangerous when he's kind of hugging the touchline. So I think that could be an option. And then centre backs, I mean, yeah, they need tons of centre backs, don't they? I mean, De Vrij's not a bad shout from Inter. Lacroix from Wolfsburg you've got down here again. not a bad option. Not watched enough of him this season to know,
he has had a bit of a drop off.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But I mean, at the same time, Wolfsburg haven't been terrible, have they? So Yerry Mina as well is out of contract this summer. Kind of forgot about him, to be honest. Again, someone with a bit of but I mean, again, a very physical centre half, which Atleti have kind of thrived off in years gone by. So yeah, there's definitely scope for this, and I mean, and we're kind of discounting the players who are already in that back line, aren't we? Reinildo, Molina, have been fairly solid. They are upgradable though. That midfield still needs work. I think if Simeone leaves, it will be really interesting to see what someone does, whoever his successor does with someone like Rodrigo de Paul, who I think has been better this year than he was last year. But I think there's still, and he's also not getting any younger. But I think in La Liga, there's still potential for him to be like one of the best midfielders in the league, and we're yet to truly see that. And then up top, I mean, they're not terribly supplied there. Obviously, you need to find someone who's going to replace Griezmann in the long run. He's not getting any younger. Morata, Depay. I mean, Depay's been fairly decent since coming in. Henry was just saying off camera, 3 goals from his first 4 shots in an Atleti shirt, which is great. But like, you kind of want him to maybe take a few more shots. But that might not be his fault, as we found with many a striker in recent years at Atleti. So yeah, I mean, in reality, what they need is either for Depay to really bang in a way that he did at Lyon, or maybe they wait for a year or two and build up the funds to be able to sign like the next Diego Costa or whoever that is, because all those players come at such a premium these days. Do you really want to take a chance on someone like Jonathan David? I'm not so sure. Randall Kono Muani, another striker who's been linked with a big move this summer. I just feel like an investment like that is a bit of a risk at the moment when someone like Osimhen is just he's just off the table, I think, to a club like Atleti. So I would probably leave the attacking positions, even though that's where they've struggled a little bit more, and just focus on the core of that side, focus on how you can maximise output from the fullbacks.
Get Marcus Llorente back firing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, work out how that midfield functions in the long run. I mean, again, like someone like Koke, like he needs to be replaced at some point. So yeah, it'll be interesting. And in some ways, I think in some ways I do kind of feel like the sooner Simeone goes, the better, because I just can't see him delivering another. Certainly can't see him delivering another league title. And even if it were to mean that Atleti, say, dropped out of the Champions League for 1 year, as devastating as that sounds, there needs to be a new direction for sure.
Yeah, it feels like the sort of final days of Wenger, when there was still a hard core of Arsenal fans that didn't want to see him go because it was so emotional in what he'd done for the club. But I think if you step away from Atletico Madrid, it's quite clear that they could do with a new direction. Like, their European performance in particular over the last few years has been shocking. Like, they're not even in the Europa League this year. They got knocked out, finishing bottom of their group. For the first time since 2010-11, they didn't have any European football after Christmas. So there's almost nothing to lose. And I think the gap with Real Madrid and Barcelona is only going to get bigger unless they make a change this summer. And if he walks away from that contract, fair enough. If you can't pay him off because of your financial situation, that is a bit of an issue, but we will see what happens there. Right, let's move on to Juventus. This came in from Kashi Bayat. And actually, Juve, I kind of got a little bit of respect for how Juve have responded to this points deduction. Like, fair play to them.
They've just banged.
They've been great. And they've got it together. Like, players like Rabiot have had their best probably goal-scoring season, probably ever, to be honest. And, they've slowly got it together. Di Maria's made a massive impact since he's been back to full fitness. And they would be second without that points deduction. And that would make it even more competitive in that area between Inter and who are in fourth at the moment, Roma, Lazio and Milan, competing for effectively 2 spots rather than the 3 out of 4 potentially behind Napoli at the moment. But they've still got the Europa League against Freiburg. They played last night as you watch this. They're 1-0 up in that. You'd expect them to see off Freiburg. I personally would. Might look like an idiot tomorrow, but we'll see. They've got the Coppa Italia semi-finals against Inter next month as well. And they're only 10 points off fourth, and that's with the points deduction. And it feels like now is the time for Allegri, if they are going to stick with Allegri, which probably seems quite likely given no one knows how this board is going to be shaped in the next 6 months, really, that he really needs to stick with what he's been doing recently, which is kind of blooding and trusting youngsters. And there are some really talented ones, like Bremer, Locatelli, obviously well-established names, but they're still only 25. Vlahovic is 23. He might want to leave, but we'll see. Moretti, 19. Fagioli, 22. Gatti, 24. Soule's 19. Illing Jr.'s 19 as well. And so many players that they brought in recent years on those free transfers, trying to sort of emulate the first Pogba arrival and the Pirlo arrival of those sort of established stars, just haven't really worked out. The likes of Paredes, I just feel like that's a wasted slot in your squad. And there's a lot of players like there, like Daniele Rugani as well, needs to be offloaded. De Sciglio as well, can't believe he's still at Juve. And they need to move past these fullbacks that they've had for so long in Alexandro and Juan Cuadrado. Like, massive respect to Cuadrado in particular. He's been a revelation, but he's 34 now. And you can't help feeling like, you know, Filip Kostic has done his bit when he's been played in that position. But on the right, I think they could do an upgrade as well. And there is a player available in the Premier League that was incredibly highly rated before he's basically been moved aside slowly by De Zerbi, and actually the final days of Potter as well, in Tariq Lamptey at Brighton. Really did look exceptional in the limited minutes he got. Then he got a serious injury and he struggled really to hit the same heights that he was. But in terms of attacking output, in terms of his progressive carries, in terms of progressive passes received, he's right up there. So Tariq Lamptey, definitely worth a look at. He's only started 3 Premier League games this year. As we were talking about off camera, Joel Veltman's replaced him. Pascal Gross has played in front of him. So it doesn't feel like Brighton, you know, we talked about Estupiñán. This is not on the same level for them in terms of what they'd want. I think maybe 15 million euros, something like that, could get Tariq Lamptey. I think that'd be quite exciting. Owen Vindal at left back as well. He's gone to Ajax from AZ Alkmaar last summer. Ajax haven't had a great year. They're still in a title race. We might touch on that later. But Owen Vindal, really solid left back as well in all facets. Just a nice, you know, all-rounder, mid-20s as well. Very, very exciting. So I'd strengthen at full-back and really trust this youth going forward and try and shift some of that deadwood as well. Because if they're outside of the Champions League for another year, we know that they've been pushing for the European Super League for so long. They've been allegedly fixing their books, you know, etc. There's obviously not great finances there, so they're going to have to wing it slightly and trust in the youth with a little sprinkling of experience in Di Maria. And I think they can continue on next year and get back in the Champions League quite easily. Right, let's move on to Gladbach. Zoe Sebastian says that. Henry, another case of some big players leaving for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be a big turnover of their star talent in the summer. Marcus Thuram obviously leaving. Ben Sebaini on his way. What is it? Borussia Dortmund.
Kamada, apparently.
Yeah, I like Stindl. Lars Stindl, he's good. He's a good player. He's gone. Julian Weigl will go back to Benfica. They could probably get him again in all honesty if he's played well enough. I'm not sure he has. That's 50 million euros worth of talent out the door. This is quite fun actually. It's quite a fun one to speculate on where they could go with this. So some Euro replacements. I think Dodi Luca Bacchio is a really interesting option. 10 goals, 1 assist in 23 league games for a miserable Hertha Berlin side. The only thing is that they do look like they're probably going to survive.
Yeah.
So, and I do think you look at the bottom 5 of the Bundesliga are big teams. All of them. It's absurd. And actually, if you look at like Hoffenheim, who are tanking the season, you would look at Kramaric and think, why not try and take Kramaric? That's quite
2
clearly,
years ago maybe,
quite clearly his level to go to someone like. Go somewhere.
Who's their central midfielder as well? Hoffenheim central midfielder. Him and
Baumgartner's very good.
And there was another guy who was like linked to the Premier League move a couple of years ago.
Grilic.
Well, I was going to say Grilic. I think Grilic for. I was going to say
someone else though. But yeah, Grilic has to be picked up this summer.
Grilic would be interesting because he's hardly played at Ajax from what I've seen. We went there.
He went on a free last summer.
Yeah. He's been really poor. Going back to the up front positions, Nicholas Füllkrug, 15 goals for Werder Bremen.
Yeah, I wanted to know what you thought about that.
I like it, but I just think he's the kind of guy that will always just be at Werder Bremen. I think at this point in his career, 30 years old, I think he'd almost do like a Ricky Lambert where he'd go to like a big club and do nothing for a bit and then go down. I don't think that he's
not the answer.
He's not the answer. But I actually think Nzola, who plays up front for Spezia, he's a really talented forward. I'd like to see what they could do there. And then, going back to Stuttgart for the fullback positions. Borna Sosa. It's going to be interesting to see where he moves this season. Could he get a higher ceiling than Gladbach? Maybe. Actually, I will say, for any team that we've mentioned looking for a centre-half, I think Mavropanos would be an amazing pickup.
He's played so well.
He has been so good since he's gone. I think they got him for like €3 million from Arsenal. I think Mavropanos is criminally too good for the Bundesliga's vie. So yeah, I'd like to see him maybe get a bigger move this season. Stuttgart have got so many fun players, which is what makes it all the more interesting. And you've and then kind of another options for midfield. If you're looking at that West Ham side, Pablo Fornals, he's kind of been pushed away amidst all the new signings.
I think he's talented, Pablo Fornals.
I agree with you. I think he's good too. And then also, I was thinking maybe like Doucouré from Everton. I think there's a good player there. Maybe needs a fresh start away from Everton. Although he did score recently, didn't he? Look sort of fitting into that new system they've got going there. So yeah, if they hunt around the lower areas of the tables, be it in Serie A, be it the Bundesliga, be it Premier League, then I think that there are options out there which they could pinch if these big teams who are tanking continue to tank.
Yeah, I mean, if a club like Leeds go down, for sure, they're going to have to offload some of that. I mean, their midfield is absolutely insane on paper. I mean, Adams, McKennie, Rocker, like, these players will want to play at a higher level than the Championship for sure. So, yeah, let's see what happens there. The Cubs, we've got Sevilla, Lyon and Ajax down here. Do any of those particularly take your fancy?
I mean, Sevilla, like you talk about, comes from at Xeno the Monk, or Geno the Monk, I'm not sure who. But I mean, you talk about Leeds, you talk about Mark Rocker, like, I mean, they could do with a real midfield revamp. Sevilla, if they don't go down, I mean, they're only 2 points above the relegation zone at the moment. They've got the second oldest starting 11 in La Liga, only Cadiz top them. So yeah, they really need to rejuvenate their core. And yeah, someone like Roca, who was brilliant in La Liga for Espanyol, in a very middling Espanyol side. In fact, he was brilliant for them when they went down. I feel like he would, depending on circumstances, would be exactly the kind of player that they should be targeting. You talk about Stuttgart, someone like Wataru Endo, who's not so young actually, but is a super productive, combative midfielder. My only kind of reservation about recruiting directly from the Bundesliga to La Liga, it's just the style of football is just so different, isn't it? It's like you can put up like 5 tackles and interceptions a lot easier in Germany than you can in Spain, where there's just far more sitting defences, far more conservative football, and really your kind of ability just to pass and not give the ball away is a lot higher, or is a lot a lot more crucial. So yeah, I feel like with Sevilla, and again it's like where's the how much money will they have to spend? They spent quite a lot last summer on in quite a scattergun approach, didn't they?
Old team as well.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit worried, and also it also depends on who is going to be managing them next season, isn't it? Because I mean, like how long realistically does Sam Paoli have left in that job, especially if they?
You think he could be fired?
Well, I mean, he's not really done enough to arrest their slump from the start of the season under Lopetegui, has he? Stylistically is very different from him, and yet he hasn't been able to really galvanise this squad in a way that we thought maybe he could. Like, with him and Monchi getting back together, you thought maybe this was, going to be a bit of a yeah, exactly. So there's lots of question marks over Sevilla, I mean, they need to sort out the attack as well. But again, it's just you have to essentially rely on them picking out another kind of diamond in the rough.
Yeah, I would say.
Do you have anyone who you think?
Well, I just think if you look at, and this applies for Lyon as well, because they're going to need some you guys. Southampton have got loads of good players if they go down. If you're looking at the two, Armel Bella-Kotchap, Dewey Chalet-Tassar, Salisu. That's 3 guys who are proven in other leagues as well as
Peters.
Yeah, Carl Walker-Peters, even Roman Perrault. I think he's a decent fullback. Yeah. For someone like Lyon, maybe for someone like Sevilla to bulk out that defence. Certainly,
Salisu back in the La Liga would be great.
Yeah, certainly those centre halves, young, talented. Chalet-Tassar, we were talking about. He almost went to Liverpool last year, and then his plane got cancelled. So I mean, this is where they should be hunting, because all these guys are too good for the Championship.
Che Che Adams. In La Liga.
I think he'd cost a lot because obviously he's Southampton's key player as well. But is James Ward-Prowse ever going to play for a really top side in England? I personally can't see it. Would he want a move abroad? James Ward-Prowse taking those whippy free kicks when he's completed Beckham's record in like 2 weeks' time.
James Ward-Rakitic, is that what you're thinking?
Absolutely. Rakitic and Ward-Prowse linking up at Sevilla. Unreal. I'm not quite sure about it, to be honest. Now I've said it out loud. Either way, let's quickly finish with Lyon. Yeah, they're 10th in Liga, 17 off relegation. 14 off the Champions League place. It's just a completely dead season. They need more backup for Lacazette. I'm saying it now. Anthony Martial needs to move away from Man United. I don't think they can afford him, to be totally honest, but a winger like that, or someone like Flo Balogun on loan, getting a move up from Reims to Lyon, higher standard, more eyeballs on you, that'd be really exciting. But guys, what do you think about our suggestions for massive rebuilds? It's a real struggle, and we are also limited by the lack of funds around Europe as well. But if you've got some good suggestions for those clubs, get them in the comments down below, and let's move on to our big match predictions. Okay, it's time to review last week's scores. As usual, a good week for myself and Macab. Schalke versus Dortmund. Henry and I both backed Dortmund. Macab's went 1-1. It was 2-2 for the first time ever. Actually came in 1 point to Macab's there. Napoli versus Atalanta. I went 2-1 Napoli. Henry went 3-0. Macab's went 2-0. It was 2-0. It's a perfect score. 3 points to Macab's, 1 to Henry, and 1 to myself. Athletic Club versus Barcelona. You both went 1-1.
Robbed by VAR.
It was 1-0 to Barcelona, so 3 points to me. That means the scores on the doors are Doogie, you're on 51. I don't know what I'm saying on the third person. I'm on 51. Henry's on 37. Macab's is on 33. So that 7-point gap has now been cut to 4 in the race for second place. Yeah. Squeaky bum time for Henry. Right. All these games, guys, are taking place on Sunday. It's going to be one hell of an afternoon. We are kicking off with Bayer Leverkusen versus Bayern Munich, Sunday 4:30 p.m. 9th versus 1st. 18 points between them. Henry, Bayer Leverkusen have a notoriously poor record against Bayern Munich, but do you see them upsetting the apple cart on Sunday afternoon?
I don't. I think Bayern will ultimately win this game, but I do think that this is kind of a free hit for Bayer Leverkusen in the sense that I think the gap between the top 6 is maybe a bit too far for them to close in. I know they're in 9th at the moment, 6 points away off Eintracht. But I do think they'll be up for it in terms of what Bayern going to their backyard. So, yeah, I'd hope that they really go all in on the Europa League and try and do something there. We saw them get a pretty comfortable win against Ferencváros, some good goals in that game too. So yeah, they've got that going for them. But on this occasion, I think Bayern will just probably have a bit too much. I think they could score. So I'll give it Leverkusen a goal, but yeah, 2-1.
Fair enough. Yeah, it feels like Alphonso Davies versus Jeremy Frimpong and Moussa Diaby on that right-hand side is going to be absolutely crucial on how much space he's prepared to leave, because that has been Bayer Leverkusen's main weapon. Macabs, can you see anything for Leverkusen?
Yeah, potentially. I think, yeah, you're right, Dukes. That right-hand side is huge for them. And as I love Alphonso Davies, but yeah, like he does leave a lot of space generally, and Bayern's defence has been inconsistent at points this season in being able to kind of compensate for all that. They conceded 3 against Augsburg on the weekend. I know they also scored 5. And that's a worry for Leverkusen in terms of, their defence is, is also far from the most watertight in the league. And if Sane has another masterclass, then it could get ugly. But equally, I don't know. I just feel like this. One side of me thinks, Bayern could just like pull away here. This is the perfect time for them to pull away in the title race, and they'll just like win the league by 8 points again. But another side of me thinks, I don't know, Xabi Alonso, first home game against Bayern Munich, his old employers, something about that. I'm going to say 2-1 to Leverkusen.
Love it.
2-1.
Love it.
2-1. No, sorry, not 2-1, 3-2.
3-2.
Yeah.
Okay, he's going for that bonus point. Absolute thriller. I mean, yeah, Bayern have been involved in some high thrilling affairs recently in the league, so that's not a crazy suggestion. However, I just don't see it happening. I think Bayern have the bit between their teeth now, and yeah, they can see the finish line in sight. It'll be interesting to know. I mean, you guys will know who they've drawn in the Champions League, of course, but I'm going to back Bayern. Did you go 2-1? I might just go for a straightforward 3-1. Right, let's move on to the Derby d'Italia. The big games keep on coming. Sunday, 7:45 p.m. 2nd versus 7th. 12 points between them. Henry, we've talked about both. Actually, no, you started last time. Macabs, we've talked about both these teams in quite a lot of detail. Do you think this is going to be entertaining, tight? What do you think?
I think it will be pretty tight, but Juve are just in a better moment right now. Although they've got 1 day's less rest because they're playing the Europa. I've just realised that Bayer Leverkusen have a lot less rest than Bayern Munich in that context. But I'm going to stick with my guns on that one. A very tired Leverkusen side beating a very fresh Bayern Munich side. Of course, that's never not happened. But I think Juve are just in a slightly better place at the moment. They've got the bit between their teeth in terms of, is that the right saying about the 15-point gap? I'm not sure if that is, but they've reacted well, like we were talking about earlier, to that 15-point deduction, and it feels like all of Italian football is kind of behind them in terms of appealing it. I think it will be 2-1 on the night. Like Inter, not in their best moment at the moment. Quite lucky to get through that Porto second leg. Lost to Spezia last weekend. I think Juve will do it.
Fair enough.
2-1.
Henry?
Yeah, you were saying off camera, Roma Lazio as well this weekend.
Yes.
Big game,
Yeah.
big game, well worth watching.
Huge.
I think Inter are just a bit different at home. I think, as you said, Porto really battered them. Got away with one midweek to Inter. But I do think at home, a lot of their, like Skriniar, I was saying at the start of the show, Skriniar, De Vrij, Brozovic didn't play, so they will have some fresh legs coming in. I want to see Aslani do something off the bench. They brought him last summer, he's done nothing really. But I'm going to go for an Inter win, but I'm not really convinced. I'll go for a 2-1 to Inter, but I wouldn't be shocked really if Juventus spring to surprise, because they are in a good moment. And they should, is it Nantes they're playing? I think that shouldn't be.
Yeah. No, they're playing Freiburg.
Freiburg. Okay, so that's a tough game. But I'm going to give Inter the benefit of the doubt on this one.
Fair enough. I think it was Nantes in the previous round. You'll of course know the result by that. I think they'll see off Freiburg, but we shall see. I'm actually going to go just for a quite simple 1-1. I think both teams will take that at this stage of the season. There's been so much messing around with that top 4, top 6 really in recent times. You just don't want to lose this game. I think it'll be 1-1. Let's move on to El Clasico. Sunday 8 p.m. First versus second. There's 9 points between them. This, guys, is do or die for Real Madrid. I'll go first because I don't want to be accused of, rigging the system.
Has anyone actually accused you there? I haven't seen it once.
I've seen it in the comments. And basically they have to do it. Even though they won the El Clasico earlier in the season, in the league, that is. So they do have that head-to-head advantage if it was to come down to that. But 9 points is far too big. They have to win this game. Their recent showings in the Super Cup and the Copa del Rey first leg, Barcelona got the results, perhaps a little bit fortuitously at times, but they still got over the line. I think this will be another tight game, but I'm just going Real Madrid on the proviso that Karim Benzema's fit as well, because he went off with an injury against Liverpool in the act of scoring. But I'm going for quite a tight 2-1 to Real Madrid. Henry?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're going to really go for this game. I watched the last Copa del Rey meeting, first half anyway, and I thought they were the better side there. It's difficult because Barca's defensive record is so impressive to kind of say they're going to score 2 goals when that's like a quarter of the entire goals they've conceded this season. But I'll go for 1-0. I'm going to go for a 1-0. What did you say?
2-1.
2-1. I'm going to go for a 1-0 to Real Madrid. I think it might be quite a tight affair.
Nice. McCubsy backing you boys?
I'm not sure. I feel like this might not be. I don't know. For some reason, I feel like this might not be that good a game.
They rarely are.
Yeah. I kind of feel like Barca will be quite happy just to, not play that adventurously. I'd love to see Ansu Fati start in this game. I don't think he's been given anywhere near enough game time this season.
He's worth the talking point.
And it's finished. Yeah, I just think Barca fans. I don't know, at least the ones I've spoken to seem to think that he's kind of a shadow of his former self. But whenever I see him, and granted, I don't watch every single Barca game. I've not watched every game that he's started this season. But, they looked so much better in the Europa League against United, for example, when he was on the field, late on in the game. And, he comes on against tired. He's been coming on against a lot of tired defences in that sense. And so maybe his numbers are a bit skewed. But I don't know. I just don't think they have anyone better than him still to play off the left. I just don't think they do.
And I think message from the Cubs,
and it would be and I think a game like this would be an amazing way for him to kind of re-establish himself. But for some reason, Xavi doesn't seem to trust him that much. But But away from that, yeah, I think it'll be like 1-1.
1-1.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
1-1.
There we have it, guys. Get your predictions for those 3 massive games in the comments down below. And we've been rattling on for hours today, so we're not actually going to do a quick fire question. But thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you guys made of the rebuilds, of our big match predictions. Get excited for tomorrow's Stat Wars as well.
Yes.
It's an OG edition. I won't reveal who, but yeah, it should be a good one. And we will catch you next week. Goodbye.